onto sort of the managerial situation you touched on there. Of course, we're having a laugh and a joke, but at present there isn't a permanent manager in charge. John Kennedy's there, who every time I see a manager who was born in the 1980s, that makes me feel very old, because I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's not far off me, Jesus.
Yeah, big one.
But sort of playing sort of devil's advocate, here. You look at what Steven Gerrard has done at Rangers, and you think that we were talking about new ideas, talking about innovation, talking about somebody who's coming in, who's got a reputation and a track record with developing young players, as Gerrard did with Liverpool's under-18s. Is that what's needed at Celtic? Taking a chance on a manager, or would you prefer someone like an Eddie Howe or Julian Stefan?
I think in England we think that taking a chance sometimes means going for someone inexperienced, or that young managers are inexperienced. When if you look at people like Thomas Tuchel, that's not necessarily the case, right? Like, he'd done 5 years at Mainz before getting the Dortmund job. I think he was at Augsburg before that. And then he does a couple of years at PSG or whatever. Then he gets the Chelsea job. And that Tuchel springs to mind because of the stark comparison between him and Lampard. And of course, Lampard has since been linked with Celtic. So I'm kind of just joining up the dots here and preparing if you're suggesting Lampard, Joe, then it's a cold, hard disagree from me.
No, absolutely not. Never.
But so yeah, I mean, Eddie Howe we would still characterise as a younger manager, but I think people forget people are lavishing praise on Chris Wilder. I think he's a very good manager, and he's out there, and he could be an interesting candidate for the Celtic vacancy. But Eddie Howe did the exact same job, really, with Bournemouth. And like Sheffield United, or Sheffield United like Bournemouth, if you want to go in a linear fashion, spent badly in a season where they wanted to kick on, right? So yeah, Eddie Howe's pedigree, I think, pretty unrivaled with relation to the rest of the shortlist. And you see names on there like Jack Ross, Roy Keane, Gordon Strachan. I'm like, this is hellish for me. Please no. And then Eddie Howe, I feel like, doesn't get the respect he deserves still, because Bournemouth were a bit naive in defence in the Premier League. Well, okay, but then we're giving Leeds, the right people are giving Leeds tons of credit for going for it in games. His philosophy might not have been quite as regimented or as immovable as a Bielsa, but yeah, he was a manager who stuck to his guns, played attacking football, and kept Bournemouth in the Premier League for what, four seasons?
Yeah, I think it was 4. Yeah, they came up in 2016. So yeah.
Finished 9th. They were absolutely toilet when he took over. Had a really good record of recruiting talent from lower down the English pyramid. Players that are still there now. So yeah, I think it's a dream matchup. It would be a great sort of reparation for his career, and I think we would get 3 years out of him, and he could add European football to his resume, and then we begin this cycle again, right? But you mentioned Stefan there. I think he'd be an intriguing choice. Because Celtic's academy just hasn't yielded the sort of talent it should have in the last 5-6 years, Kieran Tierney aside, and there's a guy with a formidable record at Rennes for bringing through some players that have cost Ousmane Dembele, Rafinha,
Camavinga, of course.
Camavinga, that's the big one I'm forgetting, of course. Yeah, players that are going to cost 100 mil plus in the future. So yeah, there's some fascinating candidates. There's so many decent managers out there right now that it have to be real balls up from Celtic to get a bad one. Like Spalletti's not in a job. I know, guys like Allegri and Sarri are going to be too expensive. They're not going to, Celtic can't go near them with the wages that they've had prior. But even Valverde, why not give him a call, see if he fancies getting back in the game? That's very juxtaposed to Barcelona, isn't it? Glasgow, but still, he might fancy it. No, I think that's probably a little bit unrealistic. But there is a good pool of managers out there now, mate. But I would still go for Eddie Howe.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting debate because, as you mentioned, there are so many good managers out of work who have been out of work for a decent while, and you come to you discuss a club like Celtic, the prestige, the history that surrounds it. It is a club which is absolutely steeped in tradition. who wouldn't want to the inner footballing romantic in all of us, who wouldn't want to come and resurrect the club that has obviously been so close to doing the 10 but just fell at the last hurdle and is now going to have to go through a rebuild. I think it does give one manager a really unique opportunity to rebuild a historic club in their image, and to really leave their mark on a club. And somebody like Eddie Howe, I think the reparation for his career, as you said, that was a point I completely didn't even think about, was that his stock has obviously fallen since Bournemouth's relegation. I think he's done quite well by staying out of the game for a season. But yeah, again, a young manager.
I mean, people scoffed at Rodgers, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And look what happened. They
scoffed at Rodgers when, post Liverpool, and now people are talking about him like he's the best British manager in the game, which he probably is. So yeah, I think that trajectory, Rodgers' trajectory, will embolden someone like Howe to make that step when that might not have been the case 5 years ago, when longer now, when we're kicking around with the Ronnie Dylers and the Tony Mowbrays. Weirdly enough, I think Roy Keane was supposed to come in as manager and Ronnie Dyler was supposed to be his assistant. I think that was a weird one in that. Yeah, anyway, that's a different story. I'm going off at a tangent here. But if we don't get Eddie Howe, there's people like Lucien Favre who have got brilliant track records of developing young talent while instilling a clear philosophy and playing an attractive attacking brand of football, which is why I said on one of our shows a few weeks ago, I prefer Favre to someone like Mourinho. And people are like, oh, Favre, but hasn't he failed at kind of like Gladbach, Nice, Dortmund? Like, what has he won? I think he left Dortmund as the highest points per game gathering, for want of a better phrase, coach in their history. So there's another guy who, because he looks a bit like a womble, doesn't get the credit he deserves. So I think Celtic, it's gonna take something mightily stupid not to appoint someone progressive, but I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, a mighty balls up. Just I am praying for just someone semi-competent to just come in and just do that. I think that with the Favre shout, Borussia Dortmund in their current incarnation are always going to be a club whose performance is juxtaposed against Bayern Munich's, and when Bayern Munich are sort of going from strength to strength, and they're spending similar amounts of money as Bayern Dortmund, you do think, well, that's going to make the manager's job a bit more untenable. So I think we've raised quite a few. I mean, I say you've raised some good names there. I think it'll be interesting one to follow that over this summer.
Who would you go for? There's Peter Bosch as well, who I thought might be interesting, but he's quite a gung-ho, but and he's actually a little bit older than I thought. Not that I'd hold that against him, but who would you go for from the outside looking in?
I mean, you say Peter Bosch, and I think, I actually don't think that teams would get any of the ball in the Scottish Premiership if Peter Bosch came in at Celtic. I genuinely think it would be 95 to 5% possession in games, but I do like the Eddie Howe shout. I'm trying to come up with a different left field pick here, because
I've said about 100 names. So
it's just because I don't want to have to agree with you, but I do think Eddie Howe's a good shout in terms of he follows the Rodgers mold, I think, and I think he did get a bit of stick. At times his Bournemouth team were naive, as you said, but you're coming into Celtic and you've got the opportunity to make history. So I'd probably go with Eddie Howe. I'll probably get back to you on that one in private when I've had a little bit of a think, a little bit of a chin scratch.